For Avicenna ibn Sina, metaphysics is science, a discipline perfectly established rationale that allows human reason to reach an authentic understanding of the internal structure of the world. Avicenna, in his genius, merged the Aristotelian tradition with Neoplatonic elements, thus building a comprehensive system that encompasses theology, cosmology, and psychology. Avicenna conceives metaphysics as a rationally structured discipline that seeks a fundamental understanding of reality. In his synthesis of Aristotelian philosophy and Platonism, his comprehensive originality of metaphysics extended beyond ontology, also encompassing theology and cosmology. Avicenna understood that metaphysics serves as the basis for all other sciences, providing fundamental principles and concepts. The fundamental duality of metaphysics. Metaphysics between ontology and theology. His conception is rooted in a premise he elaborated based on his studies and interpretations of Aristotle. A science must have a subject and object of research. The first is assumed to exist as a starting point. The existence of the latter must be established, which is the purpose of science or the existence of the objective for which the science oriented, and from this distinction, a fundamental duality emerges by virtue of its object, the existent and its properties. Metaphysics concerns itself with being and ontology, while from the point of view of the question it must answer, metaphysics establishes the existence of view of the question it must answer. Metaphysics establishes the existence of the first principle and is theology. Avicenna establishes a clear distinction between what metaphysics investigates, being and its properties, and the question it seeks to answer, the existence of the first principle. This duality reflects concern both with fundamental nature of reality, ontology, and the first and transcendent cause, theology. By focusing on being a being, metaphysics takes on an ontological dimension, seeking to understand the structure and categories of the real. By investigating the existence of the first principle, metaphysics approaches theology, seeking to justify belief in a necessary and eternal being. Avicenna accomplishes an original synthesis between Aristotelian and Neoplatonic traditions. He resumes the theological conceptions of metaphysics as universal science that deals with being. In his genius, Avicenna offers a precise definition of metaphysics, a science of being as being, overcoming the difficulties found Aristotle.
Anthology and henology in Avicenna. Being and unity can be understood as the reflection on the distinction between being and thing. The existent and the one are both primary undefined and concomitant concepts necessary of a thing. If a thing is, it one. However, if a thing is different from existing and being one in itself, the quality of a thing is neither existent nor one. In fact, even unity is an attribute or concomitant added to the quantity as it exists. Thus, while for Aristotle being and one are coextensive, the distinction between and unity, being and unity as primary concepts. Both being and unity are considered primary and undefinable concepts in Avicenna's philosophy. This means they cannot be reduced to more basic concepts. Being and unity as concomitants. Being and unity are presented as concomitants necessary of a thing. That is, if something exists, then it is necessarily one. However, this concomitance does not imply identity. Being unity as attributes. Despite being primary concepts, being and unity are also described as attribute of a thing. This means they are properties that pertain to things but do not exhaust their nature. Regarding the question of multiplicity in Avicenna, the notion of multiplicity is contrasted with unity. Multiplicity arises from unity but does not confuse with it. Highlighting the difficulty of conceiving unity as univocal and transcendental concept, applicable to all categories of being, is due to the existence of different types of unity, such as numerical unity and formal unity. What are the consequences for metaphysics? The nature of being. The distinction between being. Being is not reduced to unity but included as one of its attributes. The question of the relationship between the one and the multiply is central in Avicenna. Multiplicity is not seen as a negation of unity but as an emanation of it.
Continuing the analysis of the existent as primary in Avicenna. From the establishment of the existent as primordial and indefinable principle, Avicenna deepens his investigation into the nature of being. He highlights that existence prax essence. The question about what a thing is, its essence presupposes the existence of that thing. In other words, to ask about the nature of something, W must already admit that this something already exists. Existence is a primary intention. The notion of existence is imprinted on the human mind in a fundamental way, being one of the first intention that we use to understand the world. Not only material and concrete things exist, but also ideas, concepts, and imaginary entities have a form of existence, even if it is of a mental nature. This conception of the existent as primary has several philosophical and theological implications. By affirming the primacy of being, Avicenna opposes any form of nihilism that denies the reality of the world, this implying a critique of nihilism. Existence as a fundamental principle allows us to build a solid metaphysical system, from which the other categories and concepts are derived, thus founding metaphysics. To better understand this issue, we will have to go back to the root of philosophy, present different conceptions about the existent, although both had a profound impact on Western thought. In Aristotle, substance is the first principle of all thing. Existence is intrinsically linked to substance, which is the ultimate reality of all things. Change and generation are explained by the concepts of act and potency. Things have potential nature, which is realized in act. Substance is composed of form and matter. Form is what makes a thing what it is, while matter is the substrate on which form is realized. Therefore, act and potency form and matter. In Avicenna, existence is the first principle. Avicenna inverts the Aristotelian ordes, placing existence as the first principle. Existence prax essences, that is, for something to exist, first of all, it must exist. Existence is a first intention, that is, a fundamental and intuitive notion that the human mind possesses. Mental and real existence. Avicenna distinguishes between mental existence, which are ideas and concepts, and real existence, which are material things. Both are forms of existence, although with different degrees of reality. Therefore, existence as primary, the first intention, and mental and real existence. The main differences are that for Aristotle substance is the first principle, while for Avicenna it is existence. Avicenna does not deny the importance of act and potency, but subordinates them to the questions of existence. Avicenna gives greater importance to mental existence, while for Aristotle he focuses more on material reality. Aristotle sought to understand the nature of things from their substance, while Avicenna was concerned with establishing the very possibility of being. Avic's understanding of the existent as a primordial and indefinable principle offers a more comprehensive perspective, which includes both material and mental reality. The univocity of being and the ontological distinction in Avicenna. Nuanced univocity. Avicenna proposes a more nuanced view of univocity. He does not advocate an absolute univocity, but rather a nuanced or graduated univocity. The term being is applied to all things, but with different degrees of intensity and perfection. The first principle is existence. The principle, being the cause of all things, possesses existence in a necessary and absolute way. It is existence in contrast. Created things possess existence in a contingent way, depending on an external cause. Despite the univocity of the term being, there is fundamental ontological distinction between the first principle and created things. This distinction lies in the way in which existence relates to essence in each case. In the first principle, existence and essence are identical, while in created things, existence depends on expressing this distinction in natural language. He uses the terms anaya, meaning existence, and quiti to attempt to capture the difference between the necessary existence of the first principle and the contingent existence of created things. Nuanced univocity allows Avicenna to overcome a radical dualism between divine being and created being. The first is not completely distinct in nature from created things, but rather the principle and cause them all the grounding of metaphysics. The notion of nuanced univocity provides a foundation for Avicenna's metaphysics, allowing him to construct a unified system that encompasses both theology and ontology. The complexity of Avicenna's notion of univocity has generated diverse interpretations throughout history. Scholars use terms modulated univocity and gradual predication to try to capture the nuances of this conception. Well, please forgive me for repeating concepts throughout the video, but it is necessary to dilute the confusion. In Avicenna, existence is the first primordial principle, all it must exist. Existence is a fundamental and intuitive idea that the human mind possesses. It is the first intention that we use to understand the world. Avicenna makes a clear distinction between what a thing is and its essence and the fact that it exists. Avicenna attaches great importance to the reality of the mind and ideas. He argues that mental existence is real as material existence. Avicenna developed several proofs of the existence of God based on the idea of a first unmoved mover and the need for a first cause for the universe. Avicenna sought to reconcile Aristotelian philosophy with the Islamic religion, using reason to understand the mysteries of faith. Well, if you've made it this far, I'd like to thank you for watching the video. Please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving your comments on Avicenna's thinking. I apologize for the editing, but it's not that bad either.